All right, this is part two uh, with Elliott. And let me scroll up here. Elliott, as I was reading the book, and I think again, it was kind of on that crux of you guys, your journey with the business after or along with the Aspen event that, initially went bad. And then you guys revived there. And you said through oh no, maybe this is my paraphrasing, but through the events, through those, you guys found your values. I mean, that's significant through this process. And it was first building a business and doing this cool thing, but you found your values. And that's what this episode is about. But I would say, even as you guys do your events and you decide to put out a book like Make No Small Plans, how much of that is around your desire for yourselves to continue clarifying your values and to help other people find what they value?
Yeah, I mean, I'll skip all the obvious values like hard work and integrity, right? I'd like to think that everyone has those, and I'll kind of focus on the values that I think made us different.
Yeah.
One of them was from the early days. If it won't make the movie, it doesn't count. And it was the idea that life is not a dress rehearsal. Yeah. Really focusing on another quote, keeping it surreal, right? Like, making sure at our events to give people great experiences. Like, the reason we're putting on events is to inspire people, and let's really push the boundaries. If it's not going to make the movie, quote unquote movie, it's not going to count. If it's not surreal, it's not going to count. And so I think, from the early days, we were very focused on creating programming and activities at our events that 90% of the people would be inspired by and 10% of the people would be offended by. If we tried to do something that played it safe, hey, let's all go have a yoga class, or let's have these safe speakers that don't address challenging topics. That's almost worse than, things that push the boundaries, like encouraging everyone to go skydiving the opening day of the event. There's nothing that bonds people better at an event than dynamic shared experiences. We've had events where we encourage everyone to go paintballing.
That's great.
And so I think I'll tell you one funny thing is, one time I was at a dinner about 10 plus years ago, and there was a chef, and he asked me at the dinner, he said, let me ask you a question about your events. Do you think you guys keep it real? And I said, well, of course. Yeah, we keep it real. He said, you think you really you're keeping it real at the event? And I said, yeah, I think we are. He said, well, everybody keeps it real. Everybody, every event keeps it real. If you want to stand out, you need to keep it surreal. You need every part of your event to be surreal. Don't just serve some fancy dinner with waiters. How about this? How about ask the attendees who wants to join for the cooking, and join the kitchen chefs and staff, and which attendees want to serve each night. And now the attendees can actually create the meals, serve the meals. And then at the end, how about we ask all these entrepreneurs and fancy people to pick up their own plates and help us bring all the plates to the kitchen, and let's all wash up together. As opposed to, imagine, not only were we saving money, but imagine that shared experience of people laughing over scrubbing dishes, laughing while they're cooking food, laughing while they're the ones serving to the guests. How's that for a way to meet people, Kevin? Rather than being like, hi, I'm, Kevin Miller. I just wanted to introduce myself, versus Kevin Miller literally serving the food to every single person.
Okay, Elliott, I want to stick on that. No, it's great, because it reminds me of what's so, again, it's so counterintuitive in business. If you say, guys, we're going to come give you this awesome gourmet, 5-star, 7-course meal from chef whoever in this great ballroom, and you do it, and it's great. you just met what everybody already expected and it's non-memorable. Man, that's so frustrating because you think, no, we killed it. It was perfect. But if you build it as that, it's not memorable as opposed to, and I'm looking at your website at summit.co, and the first picture that comes up is this table that's got to be 100 feet or more long, up on a mountaintop. I don't know if that's at Powder
It
Mountain where
was
you
a
are.
quarter mile long.
Holy smokes. Okay. I missed that by a long shot. Yeah. That's memorable. I mean, just the setting alone, we're going to go eat out there. Where was that?
That was on the top of Powder Mountain.
Okay.
Um,
That's
one
killer.
time, Kevin, we had a dinner and we all ate dinner, and did this whole thing I was talking about, the guests serving the food and cleaning up. And then, there was music and dancing and everyone had a great time. And it was like 12:30 in the morning at night.
Yeah.
And I went upstairs back to the dining room, and the DJ was eating food. Like they were having some pancakes and eggs, and the chef had just finished cooking for the DJ. And we said, what are you doing? Or you're eating? What about dinner? He said, no, I'm the DJ. Like I was DJing the last 3 hours and I didn't eat before. I'm hungry. I'm having a DJ's dinner. I said, we said, well, I want a DJ's dinner. That sounds awesome. Like I'd love some food at 12:30.
Yeah.
Like, well, we don't have enough. Like we only prep for the DJ and his manager. And we thought, you know what? We need to do DJ dinners. And so at the events, we actually added to the schedule DJ dinner. And we would have whether it was another chef or the same chef, didn't cost a lot to make scrambled eggs and pancakes at midnight. Yeah. And everyone would come up from dancing and sweating and late night talks, and they'd be hungry because dinner had been at 7, it's 12 or 1 a.m. And suddenly it's a whole late night dinner. And so those are just like the kind of things that, again, we say high, cool, make it very cool, low cost.
Yeah.
What does it cost to do scrambled eggs and pancakes? At nothing. And so we would do these things that would just blow people's minds. Like what event have they ever gone to where part of the event program is doing late night DJ's dinner with 30 people? Oh, and for the DJ's dinner, everyone would sit on the tables, and so we literally sit on the tables and put our feet on the benches or sit on the counter. We thought, what, let people be at home. What's wrong with sitting on the counter? What's wrong with standing and eating pancakes? And these are just like the little touches that made Summit well known and made Summit like so different than any other event.
No, I love it. Okay, so that I just decided how I want to do this episode. You ready? So we're going to go through these. I'm going to ask you your personal, values, motives, habits, and then, if possible, I want a story in that genre, in that category from the event. First one here is spiritual. And, I'll ask you where you sit there, what is a value there for you, how you walk that out, and then how you have incorporated that in the event, maybe a cool story. Cause I know you've got a lot of people in that genre that are a part of your events, speakers at your events, and aspects of, you want this to be the word surreal for a lot of people, that is a somewhat spiritual word. So start off with you, Elliott, spiritual.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing for me personally that I've changed in the last 10 years is I started meditating about 10 years ago. I started doing transcendental meditation. I remember I did a yoga practice once, and at the end I did the Shavasana. It was like my first time ever doing yoga, or second or third time. And I did the Shavasana at the end where you just lay still and close your eyes. And I said to someone after, I was like, I really love that Shavasana thing. I think I need more of that because I'm pretty go, go, go. Mm-hmm. And I'm never silent. Yeah. And they said, well, that's just like meditation. So I started meditating, and that's had one of the biggest impacts on my life. We talked in the first episode about me not being socially calibrated. Yep. It was almost like I went 10% too quickly. I spoke too fast. I didn't listen. And it's like the meditation was like a piano tuner for my brain. Wow. It like calibrated everything so that I could listen. So I was okay being silent. So, I could be more calm and present. And so again, I think going back to the idea that for our events, anything we program, we want to love that programming. We added, these meditation type elements to the events, whether it was like a late night guided meditation or, an early morning meditation to start the day. That's something we would add. And again, we have a bunch of co-founders and different team members, so there are many different spiritual aspects of the event. But that's probably the one that resonates for me is taking some stillness within all of the, fast-paced energy.
Well, I do want to speak here because we talked about this at the end of the last show about your shift as you guys as a team thought about how these events were going to go. And you recrafted it again from being kind of about what you guys are doing and offering and want to this is for these people. This is an experience for their inspiration, for the furtherment of their lives. I mean, that is a greater purpose. And it feels like your events have that at a core of helping everybody get to their values, to their greatest purpose. Because to me, the core definition of spirituality is just that. It's either all for me and about me and what I can take and have, or I am living my life in a way to serve others. That's as a base of spirituality feels very much like what you have devoted your life to and what you guys have created Summit for.
Yeah. And we would also, add some of these elements into the dinners. I think there's a good quote that one of the most underrated pieces of technology ever invented is the dinner table, because you sit at it, breakfast, lunch, and dinner 3 times a day, every day. And it's a great place to have a conversation. And so on that spiritual note, we would often actually have table questions. Like you'd be in a table with 6 people, which 6 people are the perfect number of people to have at a dinner table. Even if you have 100 people, 6 is the best number at a table. And one of the questions was around death. And we had a friend, kind of a mentor, who wrote a book called Let's Have Dinner and Talk About Death. And you'd be at this event, and we would ask the table to answer this question during dinner, which was, you just found out you have 30 days left to live. What do you want to do in those 30 days? And what do you want to do in your last hour? And, it's a very simple question, but talk about spiritual. Like for us, we don't want to put ideas in people's head. We want to give them talks, and we want to give them space for them to arrive at their own conclusions.
All right.
And so I think that kind of question at a dinner, that was something we would do because, we've done hundreds of events. When people are sitting and asking that and talking about that, not only are they bonding at the table, but that really brings like a deep spiritual element to the event.
Well, and you've spoken a lot right there to the next category, which is relationships. So obviously I know where to go or, direction, and it's what your events are about. But it feels like you have a pretty significant story of your own of going from kind of, not that it was a selfishness, but just again, that social calibration, kind of a me focus to stepping back and going, wait, I need to be aware of people. I need to listen to people. And so I'd ask you that even in your personal life, you talked about family. What are the things that you do to keep the relationships within the values that you have?
Well, just personally, I am very into video calling people. So the people close to me, if they're not in the same city as me, I'm pretty good about calling them on video and checking in with them. And, the best thing you can do is see someone in person. The next best thing is to talk to them on video. So I really do a lot of spontaneous video calls. That's probably my biggest thing to maintain relationships with people, whether it's my relatives or my closest friends, is just making a big effort to talk to them on video.
And you mentioned though, and I don't know if there was a specific catalyst of time that brought you to this, but your effort to not talk. I think we hit this, and I don't know if it was at the beginning of this show or this episode or at the end of the last one, of just remembering to listen. You said that I want to ask questions 80% of the time. And, the other is me, but that it's more from a listener and than a talker, than a teller.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely is a way to build relationships, is asking people questions. There's, a good term, compassionate listening, really the art of listening. And that there's an entire art to listening, to asking good questions. And, most people don't ask good questions.
Yeah.
Most people's relationships are what I call a reporting relationship. Kevin, how is the weather over there in Colorado?
Interesting.
How's the podcasting going, my man?
Yeah.
Yeah, how's the kids? Like that's just like reporting relationship. It's kind of
Yeah.
gobbledygook. A better question might be, Kevin, like what's just in like the last week, what's the kind of 5% best things that have been happening to you, and what's kind of the 5% most challenging things that have been happening?
That's great. Yeah.
And you ask that question and then you really care about the answer. We also joke about people who ask questions and they're just fishing to talk. Like they're asking a question to then set themselves up to talk. It's like,
Yeah.
Kevin, how's you got any trips planned? You're like, yeah, I'm actually headed to Yosemite. It's like Yosemite, you know what? I was just there. You know what, Kevin? I just did this.
Yeah.
I did this amazing trip to Yosemite.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, they ask the wrong questions. They ask questions, then interrupt and start talking.
Yeah.
And the key is like really good, deep questions, and then more deep questions building off the answers.
Okay. So on that, then what have been some of the most successful ways you have structured the summit events to help facilitate people connecting, bottom line?
Well, if you have an event that's less than a couple hundred people, you can introduce people to other people. It's totally different if your events are thousands of people, but if it's 30 people, if it's a dinner party, you can absolutely connect people to other people. One thing we've often done is, whether it's just a small dinner we've had with 8 or 15 people, or whether it's a big dinner with 100 people, but we've broken it into tables, is to ask everyone at the table to just share where they're from, what their name is,
Yeah.
and, what they are working on right now, or what they're most excited about. Because even something like that can make it so much more approachable to talk to someone. Much of the world are introverts, and often introverts are the most thoughtful and smartest people. In fact, often the best entrepreneurs, but it's hard for them to open up a new conversation.
Yeah.
So we've put a lot of effort into kind of ice breaking for people. Like I said, someone who's an introvert, might not feel comfortable going up and talking to lots of people, but might feel great serving the dinner or cooking in the kitchen, or, being asked a question that everybody else is also being asked. We've done stuff at content sessions where you actually have everyone in the content session say their in the room, say their name and what they're working on in 10 seconds. Yeah. So imagine 40 people, and before they start the content, actually everyone in the audience introduces themselves. Just to pull people in so it doesn't feel like, again, you're kind of in this cattle show and you're this unimportant, just like random ticket holder.
You'll appreciate this, Elliott, if you haven't already heard of it. I don't know if you know Pete Vargas, but the guys,
I do.
Just master stage. Well, he told me, man, it's probably been a couple years ago, that as they were doing their events, so they're going around the country doing their events, and they're going to put on, he would contact maybe 20 somewhat VIP people, some people that had succeeded a lot, he knew, and just say, hey man, I want to buy you and 19 other people dinner. Will you meet us on Friday nights before the event or whatever? Have them come there. And what he stumbled on that was so powerful is 2 questions. He said, hey, go around the room, share your name or maybe what you do or something like that. And then just something that is working for you, like just something that's really working, business, personal, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then something that's not. Mm. And he said, nobody's ever asked that. What's not? It's very humbling.
I'm going to write it down. He says it down right now.
Yeah, dude, I thought you'd appreciate it, because he said he said people left with that and said it was one of the most powerful things they've ever experienced. He's like, dang, I didn't really expect that. But they all know they're successful. So there's, credibility in the group already. And so to say what's working, they were all really interested to hear what was working. And then to say what was not was just blew everybody's socks off. So there you go.
I just wrote it down. I
I,
love it, and I'm
I
going to
do.
ask it.
I do too. I thought it was brilliant. I was so grateful that he shared it with me, and I've used it a lot. Even I've got a weekly group of guys, just 3 or 4 guys that meet together, and we do that a lot. Okay, hey, just right now, what's working, what's not, and
There's
it's
something about a thoughtfully asked question.
yeah,
Like I heard a speaker say that the worst question you can ask a kid who's like 17 or 18 and trying to figure out what they want to do is, what are you passionate about? They're like, this is the worst question because that's actually has a lot of pressure. Like,
yeah,
what's your passion? Like most people, they're like, I don't know what I'm passionate about. But if you just reframe it and you just ask them, what are some things you're interested in?
it's great.
You know, it's a total reframe. Like I heard, and so that's something that I've shifted and started asking younger people, and that it's actually like basically everyone has lots of things they're interested in. But if you ask them what they're passionate about, like they can really stumble and feel like they don't have anything because there's so much to that word passion. But I love it's like to your point. I mean, that's such
That's
an easy question. Like what's working for you? It's also so broad. I love
uh,
it. I love it.
Well, I appreciate what you just said too, because I found myself really with my kids. They'll go away to an event or do something and come back, and my propensity to say, okay, what was the best thing that happened?
Mm.
It's so difficult. I did it just the other day, and I started to, and then I stumbled back. I mean, what was just something cool that happened? Okay, that they can answer. But yeah, we make these climactic questions, and I do it too. And I'm trying to back down. Um, Health and wellness, next category. So I'll ask that. You look like you're fit and trim. What do you do for your own health and wellness, Elliott?
All right. This is a bit eccentric,
Great.
but I played college tennis. And in the
Yep.
juniors, I was a pretty good tennis player. So I actually play tennis every day,
Wow.
play, 6 days a week. And I hit with younger players or college players. And I'm a practice partner for, again, professional players, younger players, college players. And I mentor the younger folks or just, practice with the again, much better player, but the equivalent of somebody who was a pitcher in college and now throws batting practice for a Major League Baseball team. So I will literally go and hit with players on the WT and ATP tour, or just, help out and jump in with the younger players. So it keeps me super fit, and I can, teach the younger kids a bunch of the stuff I've learned, but
Yeah.
I play tennis every single day.
Totally fun. How about on the nutrition side?
I am a pretty passionate I'm pretty passionate about my health. I have a really bad asthma
Huh.
that no matter what I did for years and years and years would not go away. And I went to all these asthma doctors, and every single one told me you're going to need to take Claritin twice a day and an inhaler twice a day for the rest of your life because asthma is uncurable.
Yeah.
So then this interesting thing happened like 5 years ago. I randomly did a cleanse. It was just like a couple week cleanse where you just take out all the toxins and anti-inflammatories from your diet. And I only did it because I just thought it would be fun. Like I never did a cleanse before. So I did it. And on the third day, suddenly all of my allergies and asthma went away. And I called the person who like the person who ran the cleanse program. I said, this is really weird because I just thought maybe I'd lose some weight or feel better, but my asthma and my allergies went away. Is this normal? And they said, well, yeah, if you, take out all the inflammation from your gut,
Yeah.
you can actually solve these, and you solve the underlying issues. Like you have asthma and you've been treating it, but if you solve the underlying issues, it might go away. So that was a major revelation and like really started me on my health journey. Yeah, I don't eat gluten. I don't eat dairy. I'm, pretty much plant-based. But I also love to cook. And I'm obsessed with going to the farmers markets. Like I go every single Saturday, I go to a farmers market wherever I am in the world. And I just find the most awesome people are there. And yeah, I think that I just I love cooking, and just my experience with my asthma and then just eliminating the asthma and throwing out my inhalers was pretty eye-opening.
Did you find out of that? Because ultimately you're doing an elimination diet, getting rid of all the
Exactly.
possible culprits. Did you figure out if there was one that was the main culprit, or was it the culmination?
I think it was getting rid of the inflation. Excuse me, getting rid of. We have to get rid of inflation.
That
Getting
too.
rid of the inflammation.
Yeah.
I found that probably gluten and dairy were the main things that when I eliminate, I feel good.
Mhm.
And that everything, yeah, like actually sugar doesn't really affect me personally. I try to not have much sugar, but the really gluten and dairy really were problematic for my skin, for my
Yeah.
asthma, for my energy. But yeah, actually, a lot of things I've tested for that were inflammatory really weren't. I don't know. Like I've tried every diet and I don't find that lectins are a problem for me. Like I eat tons of lentils and
Yeah.
beans and I feel amazing. So I agree with you, like the inflammation diet, and every person is their own unique person. And this is what worked for me.
Yeah. I have a very similar story, Elliot. And mine was nightshades
Hmm.
that just wreck me. They cause inflammation in a place that puts my back out, and I end up near immobile. And I don't
Hmm.
do them anymore. And I just have been as solid as a rock for years. So great to hear the story. How long were you on the diet before the asthma symptoms subsided?
3 days, 4 days.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
And I had like
tremendous.
horrible allergies. Like when it was
Yeah.
allergy season, I'd be like, I would just take Claritin twice a day,
Wow.
like a double dose.
Yeah.
And but look, I'm not a preachy person. And I think to your point of the elimination diet, like nightshades are great for me. Like I love tomatoes, I love eggplant, and it has zero impact on me.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
seems to me that everyone should do like a total elimination and then kind of do their own experiment, right? And
Totally.
just see what works for each person.
Yeah. That's just not fun for most people. Like you cited that you thought it would be fun. Most people are looking at that with terror. Like, oh my gosh, I've got to go a few days without gluten, dairy, lentils, whatever it may be. Um, you also in the book, it mentioned that you don't drink. Is that still true?
Yeah, I haven't had a drink in like 10 years.
Okay.
There's not any particular reason. I don't really have a very addictive personality. Just it seemed like something that the positives were outweighed by the negatives a lot.
Yeah.
And I really think that as I got even to my like late 20s or it just felt like the choice I made the night before, even one drink, I felt sluggish the next morning.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but I don't again, I'm not a very preachy person, so I have no judgment like if people have a drink or wine. I mean, the
Sure.
funny thing is I don't even talk about my that drinking or not drinking because I find it makes people uncomfortable if they think I don't drink. So I just don't talk about it.
You have health and wellness as, I mean, it seems to be a big, at least flavoring, if not focus of the summit events. Is it just part of the spirit, or kind of, again, the filtering of that? You're looking for people and kind of crafted around an expected interest of health and wellness.
Yeah, I think it's just such a common interest now, and we really like topics that cross both political spectrums, right? We like things that basically any person can relate to and talk about. So I think in general, a lot of the topics at the summit events are relatable to like a wide spectrum of people, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we try to not do stuff that could be off-putting to a large percentage of people. But I think for the most part, health and wellness, growing your own food, problem solving your health issues, uh, these are really interesting topics basically to everyone.
You talked about it on the spiritual aspect, meditation, but the next category is the mind. It is the mental health. So that's something that you're saying you participate in for your own mental wellness. Any other things that you're doing on a consistent basis just to address your mental well-being?
Yeah, I'm making decisions that are hopefully going to be stress free over the coming years. And I think a lot of our current lives and our stress can be attributed to decisions we make, whether it's weeks or months before, but often years before,
Hmm.
whether it's a business partner, a new business you launch, or a project. And so I think, it's very important to make decisions that are going to lead to good wellness, right? Overbooking your calendar and suddenly it's 3 weeks later and you're having a really bad week because you overbooked yourself. So I think I take a lot of care with, scheduling my time and the scheduling my commitments so that I don't put myself in a bad state like a month earlier and set myself up for problematic weeks.
Is that where you're at risk from a, just a mental well-being standpoint, is just an overcommitment?
I think there's lots of areas we're all at risk. I mean, but yeah, sure. Speaking to myself, I
Mhm.
would be really miserable if I was, super overcommitted to anything. Suddenly, wow, having to get on flights that I don't want to get to, or made commitments to
Yeah.
events I don't want to go to, or just anything. So I think our schedule and our lives are very foundational, and it's really important to work backwards on like what life do I want to live and how do I want to live it, and then make sure that our work and our commitments fit into that bucket.
Yeah.
And look, I think COVID was a good reset for all of us. It really let us wipe the slate clean. And, okay, now, do we really have to go out 5 nights a week? Do we, you're coming from going out 0 nights a week. So
Yeah.
even 2 nights feels pretty exciting. Uh, so yeah, look, that's definitely a big deal for me, is getting over programmed and committed. And so I'm really thoughtful about it.
I ask you this in regards to health and wellness. So the same thing with mind and mental health. As I look at the roster, like of your upcoming November event in Palm Springs, there's a good amount of people, even just the speakers that were listed, that I would put in the really in the mental health category. Is that, yeah, was that an intended focal point to have that as a sizable category for the event?
Yeah, at the end of the day, the main theme of Summit is becoming your best self. That is the main underlying
Mm.
theme of the Summit events, is how do you become all the versions of your best self? And so I think when we program our content in general, it's not, content on how to do the best real estate deal, or, how to raise tons of money for your startup,
Right.
for the most part, is a lot of content about all the elements of building the best version of you.
Yeah.
And when people leave the events, what we found is like what really makes them feel fulfilled is new relationships, but that they're, you know, personally growing and maturing.
Work, career, business is the next category. I mean, for you, you obviously, I mean, that's the story of this book, is what you guys did really as a part of your personal journeys in creating this business that you now have that seems fairly diversified. Now you have, the book happening, but are there some parameters, if we talk about overcommitment, that you've put around to keep your work where you want it to be for your own overall wellness?
Yeah, in general, we've been focused for more than 10 years on, working on things we're really excited about and launching businesses that we're really passionate about and working with people we really love. And so I think at a high level, the how we do business is almost more important than the what we do.
Hmm.
And I think people get that backwards. So we're just really focused on how we do business with people we really like working with, in a way that, is fun and exciting, in a way that, the customers, really like the product. Our goal has never been to maximize profit. So I think, look, we have our own kind of rules of doing business and our own way of doing business. And I think everyone should create their values of how they do business, what is important to them. And we feel really good about how we do business and good about the people we work with.
Well, in that, the goal is not, primarily to maximize profit, money, finances, wealth. That's the next category. I mean, there's nobody that's coming. Well, I shouldn't say that, but that's obviously a big ticket seller. Man, you're doing an event if you talk to people's wallets to increasing their success, increasing their money, that seems to be or tends to be what we see the most of promoted out there. I mean, it does sell well. How have you balanced that does sell well? And that's not the core offering. That's not what you're trying to attract people with for the events.
Yeah, that's definitely not what we sell. Like we don't offer a product that if you buy this, you're gonna, you know, 5x your, business or revenues or profits. What we try to do is help people build their community and help people grow. And if that's something they want, then Summit's a really good fit for them. And yeah, I think I try to live a pretty simple, minimal life. Like I try my best to do that. And let's see, the same exact thing as wanting something is not wanting something. And in fact, not wanting something is I guess not wanting something would be a better than actually wanting something. So I've tried to focus on that mindset. Like if you want something, then there's always like a chase and you need more. So it'd actually be a better thing to not want something. Like say someone has a nice car. If I just absolutely don't want the car, like it's of no interest, that is that's going to put you in a better place than whenever you see things you really want them.
Well, and is that not, it seems like that would be somewhat of an acute issue for you because you went from, I guess that's where the story starts back in, I don't know what the time was, it, 2006, seven, whatever, as you guys are getting ready and you literally have no money, you're, in debt. It seems like a pretty fairly quick trajectory that things were working well and your own personal finances increased. So you had to deal with, what are you going to do with this? Are you going to be the next, Ferrari guy who's I mean, I get so many, it's probably the majority of the requests I get to be on the show for somebody who went from, zero to they made $1 billion, which is cool and has a lot of merit and stuff. But that in itself is not as much the story as the personal side of it. You obviously had to, I would guess, make those choices of, okay, how am I going to live in accordance with maybe what I could afford?
Yeah, I'm very focused on not wanting things. So that's definitely just a really major priority for me.
Yeah.
Not wanting the new phone, not wanting new winter gear, not wanting new tennis rackets, not wanting a new car. Yeah, it's an interesting perspective. I actually got it from something I saw Naval Ravikant post, and it just really resonated. I never kind of heard it in that way, that not wanting
Yeah.
is a much, much better place to be than wanting. It's the equivalent. Like John wants to buy a new house in Hawaii, but I'm just not interested in a house in Hawaii. So I can avoid all of the trappings of wanting.
Yeah.
And so I've really, really focused on not wanting things. And so I have all these things that work great, like my car from my pickup truck from 2016, and I don't want a new car. So now, no matter what car I see or what new cars are available, I don't ever have to deal with the emotion of wanting.
Yeah. It's funny. I was literally going to ask you what kind of car you drove, not the judge just based on that, but it's kind of an interesting thing to see where people's, values are. So what kind of truck?
2016 GMC Canyon.
Sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the truck. What the last one here, Elliott, is achievements. Um, and it's really in personal interest. Now, you talked about tennis. If that's something you do for you, these are the things that you have. It's a combination of the things that you want to be doing on a consistent basis just for your own joy. One. And then two, what are some of the achievements that you're pursuing just again for your fulfillment? Doesn't have to be for credibility or for the world. These are things you want for you.
Well, I'm very into, constantly sharpening our various skills. And I do try to, pick a few things every year that I learn. So I don't know, achievements would be, trying to read one book a week, trying to learn how to cook, trying to learn how to, grow things, um, trying to become a better listener, uh, you know, various achievements through sports. But yes, I think that there's an element of, you're not over programming with work, you're creating space for your friends and family, and then you're also creating space to continue to grow, because your primary job as someone who does work and for your businesses is to show up in a really good, full mood with lots of energy every day, and being in a place you're able to make good decisions.
Yeah.
So I think it's important, a good achievement could be getting a good amount of sleep every night. So I do think I'm focused on kind of these peripheral achievements for myself that will make me a better family member and, a better coworker.
What about some of the big ticket in your own economy, just for you, achievements that you have ahead of you that just keep you motivated?
I've shifted over the years from aggressively setting goals to not setting goals.
Okay.
And I think it just varies. There's certain years where it's been really helpful to set a bunch of different goals. Like I would set goals of where do I want the business to go? Where do I want my health to be? What about my relationships? Maybe people set income goals, travel goals. I want to go on, 2 vacations, whatever it is. So I've had years where I've really been focused many years on goals and then seeing at the end of the year how I did. And then I've had years where it felt like I didn't want to set any goals. And we actually had a debate on this in my Summit Junto, which is our forum with our group. Did people in our group set goals or not set goals? And it turned out it was kind of split. And it's like a very driven, entrepreneurial, motivated group. And a number of the people didn't set goals. And again, I think that maybe once you have your businesses in order and your businesses have kind of goals within themselves,
Yeah.
right? Like you have a family, your businesses already have internal goals for the business. You can kind of shift to just be focused on being really present, asking good questions, being available. I don't know. It's almost like there's an intuitiveness at this point. Like I'm going on, over 15 years of being an entrepreneur. Like I don't need to set goals of what time to wake up or goals for fitness or, goals for how I want to be. Like those things are kind of innate at this point. And there's, I don't know, it's almost like by not setting goals, there's an authenticity that it feels like comes with that. But again, I've kind of bounced back and forth between them, but
Yeah.
currently I'm in more of a not setting goals mode, and trying to be more open to the various outcomes.
There's a survey that Tom Ziglar, who I co-host a lot with, has talked about, where people were asked if they resonate more with goals as opposed to problem solving. And it's real curious to me because a lot of people are more problem solving driven. So as you talk about yourself and even the peers where you say they've had some good business success and maybe they're not so goal driven, they got to go achieve this and they're killing it and, doing the hustle and whatever. But over here that there's some problems that they still want to solve, even if they're more humanitarian based.
Yeah, I mean, let's just say you're a runner and every year you set these goals to do 4 marathons or 2 marathons. You're very specific in your training. Like, it could feel good 1 year to not set goals. Just kind of, the idea of no cherished outcome. Like, I think the problem with a goal is you have a cherished outcome, right? A cherished outcome is like, I want something to come out of this podcast episode. Or if I go meet John for a business meeting, I want something to come out of it. And there can be an inauthenticity in that.
Yeah.
And so I think being able to go, do your running, if you're a marathon runner, without a cherished outcome, like just go run to run. Not everything needs to have some specific goal you hit or high watermark for you to be happy, and you have to keep hitting goals. I mean, because to an extent, goals are kind of like a means to an end.
Yeah.
So I think that's maybe why I've shifted at times. It's not to say goals are not super important. And I would say I still have some, but they're I think they've shifted and they're more overall goals. Like I'd like to just focus more on cooking for my family at night rather than like I want to cook 4 meals a week.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and again, just a cherished outcome can be problematic because it means you're trying to extract like a preset value from something.
Yeah. Man, thank you. Thanks for the thoughtfulness and the candor in sharing your values and even the values of the events you guys are doing. Man, I was so just inspired by the story, your story, the story of what you guys have done. And I'm eager to possibly partake of it here at some
Cool.
point. So, man, thanks for the time, Elliott, and your insight and the effort that you've made to inspire us all.
Thanks. You're great to chat.